So thanks to Rowan, thanks to Chuck, thanks to the whole Cisco family, we are going to be dreaming a lot bigger in the years ahead, and that's what we're going to spend the rest of the morning talking about. Imagine, if you will, with me, a single platform capable of monitoring everything end-to-end from your end user to your application all the way down to your infrastructure. Because if you're going to run a dynamic distributed environment, you better have true end-to-end visibility. Imagine a world where you can connect every technical decision you make to the impact it has on your users and directly on your business. Because, as Rowan mentioned, in a digital-first world, your app is your business. And imagine a world where the data from AppDynamics acts as impulses into intelligent systems that drive your everyday tasks and are constantly optimizing your environment and your business. We see a world where you have complete visibility from your users to your business all the way down to the infrastructure, and ultimately we see a world where your environment is truly self-healing and truly self-optimizing. No company is in a better place to pull off that vision than Cisco with AppDynamics. And as you'll see, I think over the next 90 minutes, we have everything we need right now to take you to that world. And so let's get started. Let's start by looking at end-to-end visibility. And for that, I'd like to invite up John Rakowski to walk you through where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. John?
Thank you, David. So, 250 milliseconds. Why is that number so important? Well, it's important because this is how long it takes for you to blink your eyes. It's also important because this is how long it takes Google to execute a search transaction. And this means it's important for all of you in this room today. You see, it's those services, those applications that your users use day in, day out, which formulate their expectations of performance. And that's why, over the course of the last 9 years, AppDynamics has been focused on its vision of unified monitoring. One platform, one user interface, one single source of truth to application performance in the enterprise. We wanted to eradicate problems of multiple monitoring tools. Because with multiple monitoring tools, you get multiple sources of data, multiple sources of confusion. It leads to the war room scenario, the scenario in which different teams point the finger of blame at each other. And it leads to you focusing on the wrong KPIs, focusing on mean time to innocence, mean time to, it's not me, it must be the database team, it must be the network team, rather than focusing on the right KPIs of mean time to repair. You see, in today's digital enterprise, it's milliseconds that matter. And so, our unified monitoring solution that sits on top of our AppIQ platform provides the following: end-user monitoring, application performance monitoring, database, and server visibility. And today, we're proud to announce 2 further breakthroughs. Firstly, IoT visibility, a lightweight IoT agent which focuses on Java and C environments. And secondly, network visibility, the ability to be able to understand throughput, latency, TCP loss, all in context of application and business performance. Now, when it comes to network visibility, we're not trying to replace all of your different network monitoring tools. What we want to do is provide always context of how the network's performing in line with the application and also the business. This is another reason why Cisco was so excited about AppDynamics. One single user interface to provide application and business performance. I encourage you for the course of today to meet with our engineers to get some detailed demos on how these new 2 features can help with your business. You know, we really have come a long way in the last 9 years. And I think it's important for me to take a step back to explain to those of you who are new to AppDynamics what makes our approach so differentiated, so unique from other monitoring and analytics approaches that have come before. There was a time in which your applications used to look like this. They were simple. But over the course of the last decade, the phenomenal pace of technology innovation has let you do great things. It's let you scale applications instantly, reduce costs, and stay ahead of your digital competitors. These shifts have led to greater developer productivity and agility. But here's the catch. Conversely, your applications are now more distributed and more complex. But even in this complex digital world that we live in today, there are two facts which remain constant about great applications. And that's that they must deliver on user experience and also business outcomes. And this is where AppDynamics comes into play. You see, AppDynamics is able to ingest a phenomenal amount of metrics, over 5 trillion per month on our SaaS platform. But it's our ability to monitor every single user and their actions, and to bring this together into our consistent unit of measurement. That's a business transaction, which makes us unique. So if you think about a simple e-commerce application, you're looking at business transactions such as login, search for products, add to cart. But what this means is that no matter the complexity that tomorrow's world brings, no matter the number of microservices, the number of containers, the number of IoT devices, it's the business transaction that takes the complex and makes it simple. Simple to understand, simple to focus, simple to diagnose, simple to connect the dots between application and business performance. And this has let our customers do great things. Reduce MTTR with rich diagnostics. Improve user experience for every customer in any location using any device. To making sure that every release performs better than the last release. 2, successfully migrating to the cloud. I want to touch more on this topic of cloud migration. You see, David mentioned that migrating to the cloud is top of mind for all of our enterprise customers. But here's the thing. I equate cloud migration as a bit like moving houses. And we've all moved houses, haven't we? Yeah? It's not simple, is it? Definitely not simple. And cloud migration isn't simple. In fact, the simplest element of migrating to the cloud is the move phase. But what defines success is what you do pre and post move. In the pre-move, when you're assessing, when you're planning your cloud migration, you need to make sure that you understand your applications. You need to make sure that you understand all your application architecture, the dependencies, because at this stage, it can be the smallest dependency which can have the most dramatic impact on your business if you miss it. And then post-move. Well, like with moving houses, not everything always goes to plan. But what's key at this stage is that you're able to detect any emerging performance problems quickly, because the smallest problem can derail any further migration activity. And then you need to be able to prove migration success easily, using the right metrics to different stakeholders. You know, I think I've talked enough here. So let's move on to a demo. Let's see AppDynamics in action. So what we're going to show you is how AppDynamics can help you successfully and quickly migrate into AWS, and also how we can help you resolve complex performance problems in a production environment. And in order to help me with this demo, I'm going to welcome onto the stage Kevin Wu. How are you doing, Kevin?
Doing great, John.
Fantastic. So let me give you the scenario. We've got a company called AD Financial Services. And AD Financial Services provides a whole range of different financial products. And one of the products that they provide is the ability to do online trading very quickly and very easily. And everything has been going phenomenally well for AD Financial Services. Over the course of the last couple of months, they're adding thousands of customers daily. But in the last couple of weeks, they've started to get hit by a sporadic performance problem. That manifests itself, and we've all been here, I think, that manifests itself as a spinning wheel of doom. So when certain customers are trying to place trades, they get hit by this problem. So we're going to use AppDynamics to show you how we can diagnose this problem and get to the root cause. But before we dive in, a couple of little bits about AD Financial Services as well. It's a modern digital native company. It's using microservices. They've got different DevOps teams working on different features of the application. It's a complex application. So my first question, Kevin, is how do we take this complex application and make it simple? How do we provide a simple view to our support teams and also our execs?
Thanks, John. Why don't we flip over and take a look at our AppDynamics demo environment? So the management at AD Financial came to us and asked us, hey, how do we get a single view of the overall health of our application? So what we did was we created this executive dashboard. And if you look here on the left side, we have our most important user journey. Now, a user journey is a collection of business transactions. So the first one is Account Home, which allows you to look at your stock portfolio. Then you can research a stock, get a quote, and then process a trade.
Fantastic. So what we're seeing here then is AppDynamics' ability to automatically identify and monitor business transactions, so these user actions, and we've got them laid out logically here. That's great.
Great. And on the right here, we're showing the average response time for some of our most important business transactions. But I want to draw everyone's attention here to the bottom of the screen, where we have our service health component. And this is where we're showing the health of all of the microservices running in the AD Financial data center on premises.
Okay, you know, what really attracts me on this, this dashboard, though, is I'm getting attracted to these red circles. So we definitely haven't got a problem with get quote and process trade right now. So when I see red, I want to find out what is the root cause of this problem. So how do we then help our support teams, our DevOps teams, focus and narrow down on this issue?
So when we see red, we want to investigate. But here's the problem. Process trade itself is a complex transaction. And it's a complex transaction as part of a bigger complex application. So how do we help ID teams get to the actual components that service this request? So what we'll do is we'll jump over and we'll take a look at the process trade business transaction. And what you have right here, front and center, is our transaction flow map. Now, this is created automatically. It works out of the box, and it's based on real-time traffic. And what we've done is we've stripped away all the components in the application that don't involve processing a trade, and we're only showing you the ones that do. So for example, we start on a web front end, which makes a call to an order processing tier, which then terminates at a MySQL database. So there you have it, all the components that are important. But the next question you're going to ask as an IT team is, how do I understand the severity of this problem? How do I triage this issue against other potential issues? So down here, we're showing you the load in this 45-minute window. We see that it's ticked up. We have about 1.8 thousand calls. And on the right here, we see a corresponding rise in response time, about 8.5 seconds, which is very slow to execute a trade. So if we look over here on the right side, I want to draw everyone's attention to the transaction scorecard. I'll zoom in there for you. What we're doing is, when performance deviates over our dynamic baseline, we begin to take deep code-level transaction snapshots. But we also measure the performance of every single request that hits this business transaction, and we're scoring every request as either normal, slow, or very slow.
Okay, and I can see here that we've got over 40% of the process trade transactions are very slow. So that's definitely impacting our customers then. So how do we narrow down then again, and how do we kind of find the root cause?
So to get the root cause, we want to look at those transaction snapshots. So let's dive in and filter by just the ones that are very slow. So here, we only take these snapshots when performance deviates over baseline because we don't want to affect your performance in production. And what we can do is we can filter and we can take a look and dive into this code level diagnostic. So let's take a look at one of these snapshots, and we're brought to a view of just this single snapshot. Now, this is an individual user taking an individual action. And on the left here, we can see some potential issues.
Oh, wow, okay. So yeah, we've got this list of potential issues here. So look, we've got different DevOps teams, and they're focusing on different functions of the application. And our support teams, they're not developers either. So how do we, for me, this looks like code data. So how do we kind of explain what's happening down to the code level very easily?
Well, we have developer users, we have ops users, we have DevOps teams using AppDynamics, and we understand that not everyone has that code level detail, so we can just investigate. Let's drill down into this order processing tier and take a look. And what you're seeing now is our AppDynamics call graph view. And what we've done is we've made it very easy for anyone to understand exactly where the problem is. You can see how we're timing every single method call in this order processing tier, all the way down to this JDBC call into the MySQL database. And we're seeing here that took about 131 milliseconds, which is not that much time. It's pretty clear that almost 99.1% of the time is being spent here on this call. And it looks like we have an issue where the main thread is waiting. And if we look up the call graph, we see that there are 2 asynchronous background workers being called. So essentially, we have a situation here where the main thread is waiting for those background workers to finish their job, which means that our AD Financial application just can't support the load that we're getting.
Aha. So we've got the root cause. And this correlates perfectly to what our customers are seeing in regards to the spinning wheel of doom then. So with some problems, well, they can be easily solved. But it looks like here we've got a demand issue where we need more capacity. So look, AD Financial Services has got a great relationship with AWS. So how about we do this? We take these 2 components, and we migrate them over to AWS to give us more capacity, to give us more elasticity and scalability. But that means that I really need to understand the full application architecture. And this means I'm going to have to go and talk to architecture teams to get a Visio diagram which shows all the dependencies.
No, John. We're not going to have our architects spend a week figuring out how to create a Visio diagram and show the architecture. What we can do now is, if you remember, I showed you previously the transaction flow map for just that process trade. What we're going to do now is we're going to zoom all the way out and show you something really cool. This is the entire application flow map view. And once again, it's built automatically. It comes out of the box, and it's based on real-time traffic. And so that process trade business transaction is right here. It's just part of a larger application flow map view. But now, we're showing you every single dependency in this application, both internally with internal services and with external third-party services as well.
Okay, so definitely this is a pretty complex application here. We've got Node.js, we've also got Java on here, we've got MySQL, we've got MongoDB. So this is great. This is giving me a full view then of the application architecture, its dependencies. But you know what I was saying before? It can be the smallest dependency, which can trick you out when it comes to migration. So what about network dependencies?
So as you mentioned, network visibility is coming next month. And so I'll flip over to the network dashboard. And what this brings up is that same flow map view, except now we're layering on network information. We're profiling that connection between each and every service. We're showing you the latency. We're showing you throughput, TCP loss. And really, this extra information is helping our team avoid playing that blame game. So we can determine if the problem is really in the network or if it's in the application.
Fantastic. Look, I'm now 100% confident. So let's do the fastest migration that this audience has ever seen and take these 2 components and take them over into AWS. What does it look like now, Kevin?
So let's jump back to our on-premises dashboard, flow map view here. And what we've done is we've talked to our engineering team, and we've said, hey, these 2 tiers, these 2 services, order processing and quote services, we'd like to migrate them to the public cloud, to AWS. So what they did was they went ahead and they refactored them. They broke them apart into even smaller services using Docker. They containerized them and pushed them over. So let's take a look. Let's fast forward in time and take a look at what that looks like. So this is our future state now. And we see that we've added an additional unit here on the right. This is called AD Financial Cloud. This is our application. And we're bleeding off a small percent of traffic from the web front end to this new environment, and we're keeping the existing ones there. It's called the canary release to avoid risk. So let's dive in and take a look at what our application looks like now in AWS. Just a click, we're now brought over to our public cloud AWS environment. And we're showing you that we've deployed these microservices onto EC2. We're using services like DynamoDB, and we're using S3 for storage. Now, the one thing I want to highlight is that, again, this is automatic. It works out of the box. It's based on real traffic. And it was so simple to go between the on-premises environment with our data center into the public cloud environment with AWS. And we're getting the same level of visibility.
That's fantastic, Kevin. So again, we've got now one UI, and we're monitoring a very complex application split between on-premises and AWS, and it's one single view here. Look, it looks like this migration has been really successful, but how do we go back to our execs and prove that the migration has been a success?
Well, we've gone ahead and we've updated that executive dashboard. And if you look here along the bottom, we've added this AWS component. So now we're showing you the health of all those new microservices running in AWS. But I want to highlight one thing here, which is this network connection. We're able to profile that connection between your on-premises data center and your public cloud AWS environment.
Perfect, Kevin. So again, what we've done is taken a very complex application and provided a very kind of simple view. And this means that from this view, you can look to tune, improve performance very, very easily. We've got both of these environments showing here. Look, what attracts me, though, is now the user journey, because all the steps in that user journey are green. So everything's going kind of well. So it looks like the migration has been a complete success. Well, thank you, Kevin, for that great kind of demo. OK, so what you saw there was how AppDynamics can help you quickly diagnose performance problems with a complex application in production, and also how we can help you successfully and quickly migrate into an AWS environment. Now, these are only pretty short demos. Again, I encourage you through the course of the day to speak to our engineers who are here today to get a more detailed demo and more detailed information. But with that, I'd like to welcome back onto the stage David.
Great. Thanks, John. So what do you guys think? Pretty good? So I forgot to mention, we have a lot of engineers from AppD in the crowd here, and your applause is like Scooby snacks to them. So if you applaud more, you'll get more features. Let me ask you again. What do you guys think? All right. All right, the team's going to have to get very busy now. So thanks, John. Thanks, Kevin. As John and Kevin teed up, what we see, the single biggest IT trend in enterprises today is migration to public cloud. As companies are looking to increase agility because of all the demand of change and increase scale. But as with anything at scale, you really need to be planful about how you approach this. And we found that enterprises leveraging AppDynamics can migrate with more confidence, and in many cases, as we've measured it, actually migrated 30% faster than they would have without AppDynamics and the plans that they would have had to execute in the past. Now, one of the very first customers that we had use AppDynamics to migrate to AWS was Nasdaq. And I thought it'd be interesting to hear about the migration directly from Nasdaq themselves. So let's take a listen to them.
Most people know Nasdaq well in the United States for powering the Nasdaq market here. Globally, we have a much bigger footprint, and we power over 90 markets with our technology worldwide.
Our footprint, it's in the thousands of servers, on-premise, cloud. I think more importantly, our footprint is the number of different technology stacks that we have.
Some of the technologies that we are integrating currently are blockchain and the underlying tenets of blockchain, as well as machine learning, machine intelligence, and artificial intelligence across all of our lines of business. Prior to having the notion of business transactions, we were essentially in the dark and looking at things more from a technology perspective and with fragmented URL monitors as well as base-level OS and other system monitors. Since we've had AppDynamics in place and had the notion of business transactions, it's created a one pane of glass experience across development and operations to truly understand what customers are experiencing and how the system is performing. And it's made it much more rapid in being able to resolve issues.
You'll see more adoption of the cloud, and especially the rapid pace of deployment or continuous delivery, continuous integration, leveraging technologies like microservices, which require real-time monitoring, better metrics collection, and data points to work with the business. For AppDynamics, it provides data points from user sessions to performance data, make us look at the platform as a whole and how that's being consumed.
We're very excited about evolving cloud architectures and technology and how that can drive our business into the future. Having AppDynamics in place has really changed how we work, both in terms of implementing new infrastructure or releases and troubleshooting issues. When you have an issue, it tends to be chaos, and it can even be miscommunication and finger pointing. And having one system that shows end-to-end what is happening really removes most of those challenges. Our customers want the flexibility to deploy in public clouds, private clouds, or hybrid infrastructures. And we need to evolve our applications to deliver that.
Having the right tool, especially an innovative one such as AppDynamics, really brings us closer to our transformation journey.
So as Heather mentioned, it was so critical for Nasdaq to have one system monitor end-to-end, regardless of where their workloads were running. In fact, they started the process. They brought AppDynamics in at the front end of the process. They started monitoring all of their application services in the context of their on-prem environment, and then they started migrating service by service over to AWS, and that gave them the perfect lens before and after as part of one topology about how things were going. If things were going well, it was great. If they saw some hiccups or they saw some performance issues, they were able to address them directly before it turned into a bigger issue. And we're here to obviously help Nasdaq, but we're here to help all of you quickly, confidently, and cost-effectively migrate your services to public cloud. So with that as backdrop, I couldn't be prouder to actually announce that we're taking what has already been a very strategic relationship with AWS and enhancing it today. For that, I'd like to invite up Barry Russell. Barry is the General Manager of AWS Marketplace to help explain. Barry. Hey, Barry. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So obviously, I think you guys have heard of AWS, right? Barry, you guys obviously changed the entire landscape a decade or so ago when you started to come out with AWS and the concepts that you guys have all created around public cloud. And you guys are such an incredible force and market leader in the space today. You must see some things and trends forming before others get an opportunity to see. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you see in terms of customers migrating to the cloud and the journey they go through?
Sure. There are millions of customers that are on different stages of their cloud migration journey to cloud on AWS. And I think primarily what we see is that customers no longer have to make those large upfront investments in hardware or worry about managing a lot of their IT resources and services. In fact, those customers can avoid large capital expenditures on hardware, and when they move over to cloud on AWS, they get a lot of scalability, security, faster time to market to innovate for their customers. But that's part of the story. Anytime a customer is migrating workload over to AWS, no matter where they are on their cloud migration journey to us, they have applications to consider. And one of the reasons that we created the AWS Marketplace was to serve the needs of customers that wanted to run familiar software that they were using on-prem when they were migrating over to AWS. In fact, we now have over 4,000 application solutions in the catalog across about 35 categories, servicing 154,000 active customers that use the marketplace.
That's an amazing sort of transformation.
Yep.
And you guys, if there's one company that doesn't sit still, obviously Amazon, AWS, you guys keep moving. And so with the rise of those applications in the environment, I know you guys have set your sights on streamlining the whole procurement process and deployment process of those apps. Do you want to talk a little bit about that too?
I do. What we realized is that when customers migrated over, it wasn't enough just to serve the needs of infrastructure and data services. We also had to help them procure and consume software in ways that they wanted to, and it made sense when they moved those workloads over to AWS. And so one of the things that we created when we launched the marketplace was the ability for customers to find, buy, deploy, and manage applications out of a catalog in ways where they could use the software hourly. They could use the software on metered dimensions, such as the number of nodes that are being protected, or the amount of data or bandwidth that's being consumed. They could consume those applications monthly, and they could also find software in the catalog that could be deployed annually or multi-year, where the software provider offered a discount on the software for a longer-term use. And in addition to that, we've created a catalog where customers can deploy either an Amazon machine image on an instance of their choice around the regions that we support globally, or they can choose SaaS, where the software is running inside of the provider's account on Amazon.
Yeah, and that's been a really big thing. So today, we've worked together and we've enabled this idea of private offers within AWS. And anyone looking to use AppDynamics can come and directly build the exact need that you need from AppDynamics and transact all that through the marketplace.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, today we're now together going to support private offers for AppDynamics. We launched private offers as a preview on October 9th. And what private offers enables enterprise customers is the ability to work with a software vendor to get the terms, both contractually as well as in terms of spend management on the software that they need, transact that privately through the AWS marketplace, and have it all deployed from their AWS account onto their AWS bill for consolidated billing.
Yeah, perfect. And it really continues to be the commitment that we have with AWS to streamline every part of this journey from migrating the workloads themselves to the procurement process and how you deploy AppDynamics within the context of AWS and instances that you own. Right. So Barry, last question for you. What do you think it is about AppD that is so appealing to AWS customers? Because we've worked with a lot of customers jointly on this. What do you think really resonates for them?
Well, I mean, one of the reasons that we've worked with your team is to make software available from AppDynamics, both as you've talked about already today, pre-architecture migration to AWS, and then post-analytics on the applications that are running there. And I think what's powerful about the combination is that having AppDynamics both in the catalog, where customers can immediately deploy it as a SaaS-based application and begin using it in a few minutes, gives them the visibility into the application performance, dynamics, and analytics that they need when they're migrating over. And it's also an important part of the architectural decision when they think about moving thousands of application workloads over to us.
Yeah, and the way we talk about this is that the smallest start is a great first step, and we want you to be able to do that in a matter of minutes. And we want you to be able to obviously leverage AWS and AppDynamics to go all in, I think, as you guys talk about it, where everything's running in AWS, or anything in between, whatever makes sense for you. AppDynamics and AWS are here to help you on that journey.
That's right.
Barry, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.